but there's a smaller book which is called Bhagavad Gita, and in that book there's a certain chapter called chapter 2, verse 47, and there it says, your right is only to work, but not its results. Do not let results of action be your motive, nor let your attachment be to inaction. So what it means is that you should help other people selflessly. So without always wanting money for it or status or recognition.
Thank you so much for joining another edition of The Never-Ending Climb for a Stronger Supply Chain and Procurement for Companies Running SAP. I have the immense pleasure to be joined today by Wouter Van Heddeghem. And he is one of the men with the biggest heart that I have ever met. And it's just so beautiful. I love that you guys get a chance to hear from him yourselves. He's got over 700,000 followers on LinkedIn. And he is a globally recognized expert in S4 finance. Wouter, thank you so much for making some time to join today.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me, Sean. Really great to see you again after we met up in the Netherlands.
I know, that was so much fun. There's so many times where you meet somebody online, and when you finally get to meet them in person, you're like, yeah, of course that's why we like each other online. This is like, they're just a good dude. I know there's people out there that have question around, how do you meet the world with such a big heart? You help so many people on LinkedIn. And I know that there's so many people that are grateful for that. You help people find jobs, you help connect people, you help promote people. How do you meet the world with such a beautiful big heart?
Well, I really enjoy helping other people. And that's why I built my LinkedIn network. I joined LinkedIn back in 2005, so a very long time ago. That also helps.
Yeah.
And then I just started connecting with other people involved in SAP consulting. And in 2015, I made my first job seeker post where I made a post to help an SAP job seeker find their next role. And also for free.
Yeah.
So the nice part is that I do that for free in my spare time. So, so because 708,000 people are following me and most of them are in the SAP world, when I make a post saying that someone is available, then everyone will see this post and then SAP recruiters or hiring managers can reach out to that person directly.
I have to imagine how many people end up caught up in a layoff or some sort of unfortunate circumstance, and they find themselves needing their next job. And that opportunity that you create to give them a lift, to help them find their next job. I mean, the impact that that makes for somebody's life, if they're having a hard time finding a job and that extra lift helps them find one, it's life-changing. The stress for somebody that's lost a job that it needs help is just tremendous. So what was it that helped you decide that this was one of the ways that you were going to help on your never-ending climb, help make the world a better place?
Well, I started SAP in 1999 as an SAP FICO consultant. And when I was 30 years old, I became a freelance contractor after I'd worked for companies like Accenture and other SAP consultancies. And for 6 years, it was a very great economic boom time. So from 2004 to 2009, where I got to work for companies like Mars Chocolates, Reebok, the shoe company, Unilever in Rotterdam, Nestle in Switzerland. So those were golden times, that 2004 to 2009.
Yeah.
And then the recession of 2009 came, and the banking financial crisis, and then the whole market kind of collapsed. And I was a freelance person, So the great thing when you're freelance, when you have a job, you get more of your cut. Whereas, when you're an employee, but when you are, when the economy is very bad and there are no more projects, then you get zero money. So I went from earning more and more during that great time. I got to buy
you got a comfortable amount that most people would love to get to. And then the 2009 hit, and all of the capital spending was done.
Yeah.
And what did that feel like?
Yeah, that was really, it was a very strange time because I thought that I should keep asking for the same daily rate because recruiters call you up. They go, "Hey, are you available? What's your rate?" These people from London in their London accent, what's your rate? And then you say your rate, and they go, "Is that your minimum?" And I had learned to kind of stick to a certain minimum. But what I didn't know was that other people had begun to undercut those rates and ask for way less. I hadn't really fully grasped that. So then, then I experienced what it's like to earn zero money, which really sucked. That was really bad.
That's humbling, isn't it?
Yeah, and I ate a lot of humble pie, and I bought my home on the beach in 2005 with a mortgage. So my mortgage payments kept coming in, but there was no income coming in. And that really taught me some lessons. And then I finally managed to get a 6-month contract at a normal salary again in 2010.
Yeah.
And so that I went from earning the freelance contractor money to earning the normal salary again, which was very humbling as well. And it was a very far away project. It was 2 hours by train in the morning and 2 hours back.
Wow.
And then that project ended. And it was only in October 2011, the 1st of October 2011, that I got hired by Wipro, this Indian SAP company, as a senior project manager. And to be honest, during that recession, I had kind of given up on finding another SAP job. It was really severe in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And then Wipro hired me, and they totally restored me back to health. Because thanks to them, I was able to continue paying my mortgage. I didn't have to sell my home.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful to that Indian company which helped me out.
I think that sense of learning what it's like to understand what it feels like when you need a hand, and that experience that creates that empathy. You used a term when we were talking about, if you don't really know, then you're
then you're just a tourist. Yeah,
just a tourist.
So basically, if you've never been without a project or been unemployed, then you have no idea what it's like. And then you might think, those people, why are they feeling so sad? Why can't they get a grip? Or why are they emotional?
Yeah.
Well, I was lucky that back then I didn't yet have a kid or a family to support. So for me, it was pretty bad, even though I didn't have a family to look after.
Yeah.
Because I only became a dad way later when I was 43. So this was when I was 36. And when something bad happens to you, then you will know what it feels like. And then until then, you're just a tourist. Like, you could have empathy or compassion, but you don't really know what it's like. And so that recession really got me kind of to taste rock bottom.
Yeah,
And
it's painful.
yeah, and so sometimes I post about Indian ideas and Indian culture on LinkedIn. That's because I really appreciated them giving me this opportunity. But most of my coworkers were from India. Like often I was the only non-Indian in the team. We would go to Indian restaurant. Indian people love to eat Indian food. So we would go to Indian restaurants and I would ask them to teach me their language. Like, how do you say spoon in Hindi?
Yeah.
Then they told me I don't speak Hindi because they're Southern Indians and they want to speak Tamil or Telugu or Kannada.
There's so many
Yeah,
different
there's actually an
languages, right?
Indian language called Kannada because you're in Canada, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So the people in Bangalore, they speak Kannada.
Yeah.
That's their language. But I didn't
That's
know all
beautiful.
this. I just, when I first interacted with them, I only knew that there was Hindi, right? The
Yeah.
Indian language. And yeah, the Indian people taught me a lot of these ancient Indian wisdoms. Maybe you know that civilization actually started in the Indus Valley. So Tamil and Sanskrit are some of the oldest languages in the world. And the idea that you have to live in peace and collaborate instead of fighting wars with each other, live in peace and harmony. And this all started in this Indian Indus civilization.
If we explore for a moment some of those ideals, we talked a little bit about Nishka Karma and how that idea, if you can share a little bit more about that, because I know that's been really formative for you in helping you meet the world on the level and meet the world with that big heart that you've got to go help others. How would you describe Nishka Karma for people that haven't heard or don't know what that means?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of Hindu books, like the Mahabharata, but there's a smaller book which is called the Bhagavad Gita, and in that book there's a certain chapter called Chapter 2, verse 47, and there it says, "Your right is only to work, but not its results. Do not let results of action be your motive, nor let your attachment be to inaction." So, what it means is that you should help other people selflessly. So, without always wanting money for it or status or recognition. So, what they say is that they say my dharma means my life purpose is nishkam karma. So it means I actually subscribe to that. So when you say my dharma is nishkam karma, what you say is that you want to help other people selflessly without an ulterior motive.
And this idea that you can go through life with this deep-seated belief of even knowing that when you help others, the universe and the world helps you, and it comes back around. That sense of karma of what you want for the world, what you speak into the world, and what you bring to the world is what the world brings back to you. And it's proven so true for so many people, myself included. I think this beautiful, beautiful way that when you show up and you help more people, the world, the universe finds ways to help bring that back, to bring goodness to your life too. And you've been able to create an amazing life for yourself and for your family. And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I also strongly believe in being a nice person, being kind. Before I discovered Hinduism, I also studied Buddhism. So there's this book. When I was 18, this Japanese person gave me this book about the life of Siddhartha Gautam, the Buddha. So he also talks about similar things, like you should help others, you should be peaceful. So Buddhism, I used to study Buddhism, and then when I met the Indian people, they taught me about Hinduism. And then I realized that that whole Nishkam karma thing, that I had actually been doing that without knowing that that's what it was actually called. But I really believe that if you are a nice person, if you are kind, friendly, respectful, if you go out of your way to help others when you can,
Yeah.
then that kind of good energy that you send out into the universe will come back to you. Even if the person that you help doesn't appreciate it or never talks to you again, other people will see that this is your helping nature.
Yeah.
Well, when we met and had dinner together on the beach, thanks again for inviting me for dinner.
All right. My pleasure, Wouter. This
So
is one of the most beautiful things is you get to go through life, and sometimes you meet people that have that same philosophy of how to show up and just help other people. And then one of the most beautiful things starts to happen when you get enough of these people helping each other. Then it is absolutely magical. It's exponential in terms of the amount of good that you can do together in the world. And I love that. We've talked about life philosophy and how I know we share a lot of those ideas. You've studied more of Hinduism, and I've come at it with a little bit of an agnostic, but taking bits and pieces from lots of different elements. When we think about the world that we both work in, we both help a lot of customers with SAP. We've got, Rio for responsive intake and orchestration, and helping for intake to pay for companies and invoices and intake and orchestration and things like that. And you've got S4 Finance. And when you're helping somebody with S4 Finance, because you've been through so many projects, you've got to travel the world. I still think it's super cool that you get to go to Hawaii for a project. That is beautiful.
yeah,
That is like the world showing you that you've done something amazing. For you to get that opportunity, you just know that that's karma working in beautiful ways.
that was one of the coolest projects that I ever got to do.
Yeah.
So I had actually been doing this project in South Carolina, in Greenville, Spartanburg, for 10 months.
Yep.
And also in Mexico City, which was also really amazing to see Mexico City. And one of my coworkers showed me around, this Mexican Spanish person.
Yeah.
And then I got back home, and our finance line of business lead, his name is Shrikar Vijay. He sent out this mail to all the SAP finance consultants about how can we help this client in Houston, Texas. So I was in the Netherlands. It was on a Monday, and I had replied to him saying, well, maybe we could help this client with this technology or that feature. And then he said, he wrote me an email saying, do you want to work on this project in Houston by Thursday? So I had packed my bags, and on Thursday I flew down to Texas, Houston, and for 5 months I was in Houston, which was also a really great experience. A very big city.
Yeah.
And I had many Afro-American friends. They showed me all around Houston to these jazz bars.
Oh, so cool.
And that was really amazing to see Houston. And then our customer was actually based in Honolulu. So then all of a sudden, my manager, Nadine, she asked me if I wanted to also join them on the workshops on site in Honolulu, in Oahu.
That only happens, Wouter, because you've shown up to the world and created value, right? And you've helped other people, right? There has to be a bunch of things that go right for somebody to offer that opportunity, or for that opportunity to come to you, right?
Well, I was there for 5 months working on the project. So I was really amazed to visit Honolulu together with our team.
Yeah.
and we went to climb this Diamond Head volcano, where you can go on a hike, and then when you stand on top of it, you can actually see the whole Honolulu beach.
Oh, that's my kind of hike.
Yeah, and I guess one message that I also have for people is that, in general, is that during that 2009 recession, I thought, oh, I'm never going to get an SAP job again, and then I ended up 5 years later standing on top of a volcano in Hawaii.
On top of the world.
Yeah. So when people say these things like the best is yet to come, and then you go, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But you have to keep believing and keep working hard and don't give up.
Yeah.
Be resilient, have stamina.
Yeah.
These are some other general values that I really believe in. And then I ended up in working in Hawaii. So it wasn't like a bonus trip, like when you're in sales, but that was actually the project location. So that was a really amazing experience.
You got to, because of the way you decided to meet the world, because you kept showing up with that tenacity, with that persistence, and because you kept meeting the world with kindness instead of letting yourself get grumpy or frustrated or angry, when you did that, it created these opportunities, these doors and whatnot kept opening for you. And you brought to the world that kindness and were helping other people. And then before you know it, you're on top of the world and, living your best life. I love the way that just demonstrates the example of how when the right things come together and when you meet the world the right way, on the level and in the right spirit, with the right heart, it comes back to help you. So when we think about the project life and the SAP life and the things that you wish more people knew about S4 finance, sometimes I've always believed in this idea of a T-shaped consultant where you understand enough about all the different modules, but you go deep in one or two areas. And then you can go and help. Let's say you're an MM and you need a new cost center. You can go make one. You don't need to pick up the phone or send an email or a chat and wait for somebody else to do it. You can just go quickly do this. So then if there's a goods receipt that you're trying to deal with on a three-way match, processing an invoice, you know how to go do that very quickly because you're not limited only to one silo. For people that have come up, and it's unfortunate, but there's more consultants in the last decade or so that have been brought up with only one area and kind of this idea that, oh, that's somebody else, don't worry about that. But for people that have come up there, what would you wish them to know? Maybe there's one or two things that would really serve them in understanding finance better in S4 to help them move more quickly and to help work better with a finance consultant.
One thing that I really liked about S4HANA Finance, so I was very lucky that I got to do my first SAP S4HANA Finance project in 2016 when it just came out.
Yeah.
And, regarding the same process as one of your products does, the Fiori was something really cool to see for the first time.
Isn't that awesome?
So we had this iPhone with the purchase order approval app on the iPhone.
Yep.
So I was working on that S4HANA Finance project. And the really cool thing about that is that you can be a manager of a department and you can be out at a sales meeting or at the gym or for dinner with your wife. And a purchase order can come onto your phone. And using that SAP Fiori functionality, which works on any device, you can just check the purchase order on your iPhone or on your Android, and you can see, hey, did we order that engine or those books or those machines?
Yep.
And you can just, with one simple click, approve the purchase order. So
it's
instead
mind-blowing. Compared to going into the old transaction and finding the right tab and everything. Yeah, that's next generation easy.
Yeah, and also you don't have to take your laptop with you. So let's say you're at the gym where I should go more often and you go a lot.
That's okay. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah. Like when you're at the gym, you could be a department manager and just approve the purchase order on your phone. So the first time I saw Fiori, I just thought it was so cool. And what I also advise companies is not to do the brownfield conversion where you stick to the old GUI, because that's like buying a Ferrari and then having like wooden wheels underneath it. So you have the whole
Square ones.
Ferrari. Yeah, then you're not getting the full experience. But I strongly advise that for the users, you adopt a Fiori only unless policy. So when
Yeah.
you're going to move to S/4HANA, that you take full advantage of these Fiori tiles. And there's some great embedded analytics as well. For
Yeah.
example, let's say that you're the head of accounts payable. There's all these Fiori overview apps. So if you go to the SAP Fiori library,
Yeah.
and
Those
you
are some
look
of the
for,
best kept secrets, Wouter. They
yeah,
really are.
yeah, like if you search for apps called overview app,
Yep.
they contain embedded analytics. So embedded analytics means ready-made reports.
Yeah.
So way back 20 years ago, if you wanted to have nice reports with KPIs, you had to pay a BW consultant. For example, way back it was like with Cognos Power Play. You had to say which columns you needed, and then 6 weeks later, would you get the report?
And hope that the calculations were all done correctly.
Yeah, that the columns were right. So there's a lot of free kind of, included things in S/4HANA Finance. There's thousands of apps. And then some of the coolest ones are, for example, the overview app for accounts payable, where there are loads of little indicators and pie charts and histograms indicating which invoices are overdue.
Processing times, approval times.
Yeah. And this is all included in the Fiori. But if you don't use Fiori, then you're not going to get all those embedded analytics apps, which means pre-made ones. Yeah. So
that is such a tip that I wish more people knew about, to go in and understand what comes out of the box with it. And I think there was a moment when I was a program manager and I had a large systems integrator helping us with something, and I got a little bit frustrated because they kept asking me what my requirements were, and they were asking my team what their requirements were. And I said, well, hang on, guys. We bought this system that's supposed to have a whole bunch of pre-built stuff in it and a whole bunch of best practices and stuff. Show me. I want to see it before we finish and finalize and decide on what our requirements are and what we want the process to be. Would we please spend a little bit of time showing me what's there? Show me the best parts and show me what you think good looks like out of the box or as close to it. And yes, out of the box, pure vanilla, it needs a little bit of things to be set up so to actually be able to show you. But that is 100% a best kept secret. And I know that there's all kinds of people that get really busy. I 100% agree. That has to be one of the things that people take the time to go and look for. And we've run our business on S/4HANA since 2015. And I kind of joke, it was almost public beta back then. But one of my favorite things was getting our team onto Fiori. And it hurts my heart when I hear about teams that have done a migration and they keep everybody on the old GUI because they're worried about change management. But that's just watching stuff spiral down the drain, and it doesn't compute, right? You got to have the strength to go in and say, I know you'll love it, but that's called Stockholm Syndrome. And it's time for you to let it go. And maybe you're used to it, but let me show you what good looks like today. It takes some confidence and strength to go do that. And I know that you do that in your projects and the way that you show up. And it's not just because you're Dutch and you're direct.
Yeah. Dutch people like to speak their mind.
Yep.
Yeah, so I really feel that you should get into Fiori. And there's also this two people that you can follow on LinkedIn and on the SAP community. One person is called Jocelyn Dart, D-A-R-T.
Brilliant.
And she's based in Australia. So she shares these latest blogs about the latest Fiori apps and user interface tricks. And then there's another gentleman called Thomas Rice, R-E-I-S-S. And those two people, if you follow Jocelyn Dart and Thomas Rice on LinkedIn, then they publish the latest cool Fiori apps.
Yeah, the Lighthouse apps.
Yeah, the
best,
Lighthouse
the
apps.
best
Yeah,
of design. Yeah, those
yeah,
they are fantastic.
yeah. So that's another thing that you just touched upon. So Jocelyn Dart and her team, they've picked the most used and most appreciated apps in the Lighthouse series. So if you open the SAP Fiori apps library, you'll see thousands of apps, and you're thinking, like, which one am I going to pick? Well, they have this PowerPoint where they already picked the most useful apps that most companies use. The Lighthouse.
It's like hey, you didn't know computers could do this? Hold my beer, watch this. Check this thing out. And it's absolutely worth a look. And I hope everybody takes a moment to check that out. Wouter, I know I would love to keep talking, but I think we are just about out of time for today. If it's
Well,
if it's all right
I would like to give you one compliment as well.
Oh,
Sure,
please.
Yeah, so you say all these great things about me, but one thing I really appreciate about you, Sean, is that you're very humble. You're a very humble person. So when I met up with you, I was doing some research about your company, and you're not that much into bragging.
We're Canadian. It's just not really in our thing to brag.
Yeah. But when you told me that your company has developed all these great products which are on the SAP store, and that you have so many employees already, when you meet you as a person, you're very down to earth and very humble, and I think this is a great quality. And you also shared with me about your life story, about your wife and kids, and how you love to do sports together.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's something that that's really great about you, that your humility,
Wouter, thank you. I'm gonna try not to cry a little bit. I don't usually get very much recognition, so or maybe I just need to work on taking it better. So I really appreciate you, and I would love to follow up if maybe there's a time to dig further into finance in another episode. And thank you so much. Bedankt.
Yeah, you even speak some Dutch, yeah.
And merci and vielen Dank. I look forward to our next chance to catch up over dinner, and I know this will help a lot of people out there in the community. So this has been another edition of The Never-Ending Climb for a Stronger Supply Chain and Procurement for Companies Running SAP. Thanks so much, everybody. And Wouter, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me. It was really great speaking with you.